We are on a mission to save and revitalize independent pharmacy.
On the Catalyst Pharmacy podcast, you'll get actionable business advice.
Hear stories from industry leaders,
And share a laugh or two with us.
Fuel your passion for pharmacy.
one conversation at a time.
4,
3,
2,
1. Ignition.
Welcome to the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Key, president of PioneerRx, and today I'm here with Marsha.
Hi, I'm Marsha Bivins, Director of Marketing for PioneerRx.
Today we're here with Melanie Maxwell, president of the new AlignRx, and we're super excited to learn more about that. I was asking this morning how you came in as an idea for the podcast, and I think it was Tim Mitchell that
yes,
a very cool guy. Recommended you, so that comes with a huge endorsement.
well, that could be good or that could be bad. We'll see.
Yeah, I know that's
Tim's
kind
It
of
landed you on the podcast today, so it must be good.
It must be great. Yes, no, Tim's a wonderful, wonderful gentleman. Have really enjoyed getting to know him over the last couple of years, and so yeah, no, I was happy to jump in and talk about AlignRx and all of the fun things that we're doing right now for community pharmacy. And yeah, just excited to be here this morning. So thank you for having me.
I guess just a super simple. Tell us about you. Tell us kind of about your life and how you got started in this that took you all the way to where you are today.
Oh, so we're skipping business and going straight to personal.
I'm curious. So I don't know. So I just.
Well, I am a native Oklahoman.
Okay.
I was born and raised here in Bixby, Oklahoma, actually. Go Spartans. And got started actually in pharmacy quite by accident. I was in the employee benefits sector living in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Nice place.
When both of my parents got ill. And as with most, when you have that situation, you come home.
Okay.
And you do what you got to do to take care of family. And so when I came back to Oklahoma, I got a job at the corporate offices of Mays drugstores. And that's really where my pharmacy career began back in 1991. I got exposed to, and that was back when third-party reimbursement was maybe 25 to 30% of total revenue.
So where was, tell us about, for those not in Oklahoma, Mays Drugstore. What was that, a single store? Do they have multiple stores throughout the state? What was?
When I went to work for Mays, they had 35 stores.
Okay.
And then Mays Drugstores actually over the years grew significantly and then was sold to the USA Drugstore chain.
Okay.
Which then subsequently was sold to Walgreens.
Okay.
So all of that over the course of probably 15 years or so. But it was a local chain, 35 locations all over Oklahoma, and they were Mays Drug and Drug Warehouse. That was the store name that the community would.
And what did you do for Mays?
At that time, I did third-party contracting and point-of-sale technologies. And so I was working with the IT guy there to focus on how to make claims reconciliation a little bit easier and smoother. And I actually created the first pharmacy IT help desk. So the pharmacists and pharmacy technicians that were running into problems getting claims to transmit and like I said, this was back when third parties were a small
just
piece of
started.
your business, and it was more an irritation than anything.
Right.
And so I created a corporate-based help desk for those folks to have resources to call in and figure out how to get claims to transmit correctly.
Nice.
Did a lot of work with the Switch entity, now known as MDON. Back in the 90s, it was known as a different name. But getting into just the telecommunication standards and trying to learn what what's required to get a claim to successfully transmit and all of those things. That's where I cut my teeth in pharmacy, getting to know that side of it. And so I did a little bit of third party contracting back when, they would pay you AWP plus. And that's really where it got started. It was very natural.
I was at Montana Family Pharmacy this end of last week and met the guy who was CEO of MDON when it went public, George Lazenby. I don't guess you knew George from back then.
I did not.
Super nice guy, very smart. He started a company, Order Insight, that he has today, which is along with Mark Lyle, who started ERX. They have bought together. So super interesting guy. A lot of interesting history. You run into some of these people who've been in pharmacy forever, and you just feel little. you just feel just feel little in the stories they tell, and even I wasn't in pharmacy in '91. So super interesting. All right, so Maze Drug. Did you stay with them when they went to USA Drug, or was that time to move along?
No, actually, before the USA Drug acquisition occurred, I was given an opportunity because of what I was doing at Maze Drug Stores and doing some third-party contracting, and I was just in the right place at the right time. Maze Drug Stores wanted to get into a business relationship with a local managed care company here in Oklahoma. So there was a company called Community Care HMO.
Okay.
And in 1995, I left Maze and went to work for the HMO to take over pharmacy programs and credentialing of all things. So Maze Drug Stores actually had the network for the HMO under a capitated pharmacy arrangement.
Okay.
And so I literally learned ground up from pharmacy financing perspective, what is capitation? How does it work? How do you manage it properly? And how do you do that with a carve-out network? And then when I went to work for Community Care, I spent 14 years at Community Care and went from managing pharmacy programs and credentialing to being senior manager over pharmacy programs and ancillary services. Managed P&T committee, did the financial verification validation of rebate deals between manufacturers and the PBMs. I was primarily responsible for the PBM relationship, auditing of pharmacy networks, and development of patient education disease management programs. And so, I got to meet and know a lot of great people in the industry from the pharma side, and really found unique ways to manage pharmacy programs for population health through managed care. And then, that little thing called Medicare Part D came along.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I built a Part D plan from ground up.
Wow.
And
so you started to feel small. I'm starting to feel small. But,
She's had her hands in everything. She's
I
developed
have,
pharmacy.
Yeah. And the unique perspectives and the challenges and all of those things, I just by nature of my personality, I love problem solving. The bigger, the harder, the more challenging, the nastier the problem is, the more fun I have engaging and trying to pull it apart.
She's got like I have to organize it and fix it. She's like my spirit animal.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, very much so. And I have one of those personality types that you either recognize what it is and love it and roll with it, or I will make you absolutely crazy because I ask 1,000 questions and I have to know how things work
my
before
husband calls it OCD.
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So where did Community Care sold? Right? Didn't they sell it? Do they still exist?
Community Care still exists. It's the one of the premier HMO plans here in Oklahoma. When I went to work for Community Care, they were owned by 4 hospital systems.
Okay.
They were, and after I left, then St. John Health System was actually purchased by Ascension, and so it's now down to just 2 health systems that own Community Care and that family of products. The St. John Ascension Health System and the St. Francis Health System. Both of those are the premier hospital systems there in Tulsa. So a lot of good people that work there, still have contacts, still provide services for some of those folks. And that's a really cool thing about pharmacy is the people that are involved in this industry. I mean, you really do make lifetime friendships. Just very collaborative thinkers. Absolutely, patient care is first and foremost on their minds and how to make it better for the patient. I'm just excited that they allowed me to stay in the profession, even though I'm not a pharmacist. They've embraced me as a thinker, a forward thinker, and a fixer of problems. And so happy to be here.
So from community care, you went to PPOK. Is that right?
I did. And, that's probably one of the funniest stories of my career. Lonnie Wilson, long time mentor in the pharmacy profession. He and I would negotiate contracts on opposite sides, right?
Oh, okay.
The HMO, I needed a pharmacy network, and Lonnie, representing independent pharmacy in Oklahoma. So I spent years negotiating contracts with Lonnie Wilson against each other. And Medicare Part D, that whole program, the way it's built, the complexities, it can really take a lot out of a person. And so I was looking for something different. I'd had enough of the managed care system, the challenges, the difficulties, where things were headed. And so literally one day I called Lonnie up and I said, Lonnie, are you busy? And he said, well, I'm actually driving back from a board meeting. He was on some interstate in Wisconsin, I believe. Go, Pat, go. And so he was driving down the highway, and I said, well, what do you think about maybe me coming to work for you? And he, to his credit, he was always so very professional. He said, that's an interesting idea. Let me think about it. And I'll tell you what, when I get back from this trip, I'll call you and we'll explore it. And the way he told the story was he hung up the phone with me, turned and looked at Bob Greenwood, who was driving, and said, I think hell just froze over.
I was about to say, was that like the beginning of a not just no, but a hell no, but politely said?
Well, I think the idea intrigued him so much that, and I'm very thankful that it did. He literally hired me in. He said, I don't know what you're going to do, but let's bring you over to PPOK and see what happens. And that was January of 2010.
Wow. And
we went from 360 roughly pharmacies, mostly in Oklahoma, to when I left June 30th to take over this position here at Align, we had 2,200 stores.
Wow.
And so developed out, and Lonnie, to his credit, he let me do what I do best, look for problems and find solutions and create programs and services to improve the lives of the pharmacists and clients that we take care of. And so,
all right. So PPOK had a PSAO.
Mm-hmm.
And then they split that part off and joined with Arete. Is that
Arete? Correct. Arete.
And then they put you in charge of that when they did that. Is that?
They asked me to lead the organization, what is now known as AlignRx.
Okay. And
so we are right now going through the process of evaluating the programs that PPOK had to offer and evaluating the programs that Arete had to offer, and finding those synergies and migrating, consolidating processes. And I think the community pharmacies are going to be very happy with the end result of what we're going to be able to provide to them very, very shortly. So
okay, and so how new is that? How new is this new AlignRx?
Yeah.
I became the first AlignRx employee on July 1st.
Of this year?
Of this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then August 1st, we actually did the signing of the closing. So it became official August 1st. Pharmacies from both entities were assigned into Align, and we went through the process of collaborating with the PBMs and getting those contracts assigned in. And so we have just under 4,500 pharmacies right out of the gate. We're the largest PSAO in 8 states, second largest PSAO in 12 additional states. So right out of the gate, we've got a wonderful footprint and a great group of pharmacy owners to represent and serve. And I feel very fortunate that we get to do the coolest thing possible, which is provide those products and services so that pharmacists can do what they do best. And community pharmacy, I've never been more proud than what we have seen come through this pandemic, and the fact that community pharmacists are the absolute heroes frontline. And I feel very, very blessed to have been part of the administrative support to all of that. And so,
all right. So
wait a minute. So let's go back. This all just kicked off Align. Do you feel smaller now that they're almost?
I'm getting smaller.
They're practically like our size, but in a matter of like 2
just
months.
Got kicked off. Yeah. Because that would have been 2010s, about the time Pioneer started.
Yes.
Okay, so most of the PSAOs out there are associated with wholesalers. So Cardinal has one, Amerisource has one, McKesson has one. And so pretty much to be part of that, you have to be part of the wholesaler. So are there any catches? Can anybody join AlignRx if you're an independent pharmacy? And do you have to be part of PPOK or part of what's the rules to being part of your PSAO?
We have our participation requirements are more around business structure, ownership, and quite honestly, disciplinary action.
Okay.
We do not believe in making that solid connection between buy side and sell side. In fact, I believe quite the opposite. I think pharmacy owners absolutely have to be as flexible as possible, so that they can react quicker to changes in this market. This market moves very fast, and when changes happen, you need to be able to make appropriate business adjustments to keep your business thriving. And when you lock down your PSAO to your buy side, and you have to stay connected with both of those components, you might as well just hand your keys to your pharmacy over to your wholesaler, because they control you on both sides, and that is never a good business proposition. I believe very strongly that the PSAO side should be focused on administrative services, things like claims reconciliation, audit assistance, contracting, performance, patient programs, healthy business flow. I always smile when new pharmacists graduate from pharmacy school and they've got the bug and they want to own their own and they want to be an entrepreneur, and yet pharmacy schools are focused, as they should be, on patient care delivery and clinical side, and have very little business
entrepreneurial
training for these folks. And so the PSAO, I think, is uniquely positioned to truly help them become spectacular business owners. And that's where the PSAO should be focused, in the business side of pharmacy. Buy side, you need to be able to purchase products from wholesalers without having to worry that changing wholesalers to get a better deal is going to interrupt and blow up your entire business side.
Am I disadvantaged if I do that though? Do they have structures like if I use a different PSAO, let's say I'm a Amerisource and I use a different PSAO than theirs, but still buy from them, am I disadvantaged in my purchases? They tie any of those things together?
I don't believe so. And the reason I say that is because on the purchase side, rebates and invoice price, it's still a pricing game, right? At the end of the day, when a wholesaler says you get your PSAO for free, when you really follow the money, it's not free. They've taken a piece of rebate action to cover the cost to keep the PSAO running. So you're paying for it, whether you pay for it on the black and white invoice line, or you pay for it with loss of rebate that you're not even aware of.
Right.
And so transparency in this sector is so critically important, and we are pushing for it, for PBMs to be transparent, PSAOs should be transparent, and wholesalers should be transparent. We need to fix this problem that we've created by allowing so many people in the middle of the distribution channel that really are not providing more value, only more cost. I firmly believe that if the pricing structures were more transparent, and I'm not saying everybody has to know what the actual price of the drugs are. What I'm saying is the process of buying, the process of how the wholesaler works, how rebates work, not what the amount is, but how they work. And then how did the PBMs come in and sit on top of that relationship? And really it's that PBM wholesaler, PBM drug manufacturer relationship that has gotten so far out of what should be reasonable, driving up costs. I mean, insulin, that product alone, if you did a case study on insulin pricing, you would see how very criminal, honestly, that whole pricing game developed. And pharmacies we're an absolute critical piece of the distribution channel, but yet we have no control over the prices. We negotiate the best deals we can, but it's still a volume game. And when you've got a PBM that owns its own distribution, negotiating with the same wholesalers that are negotiating with the pharmacies, also buying from them, and the PBMs are setting the sales price, we have got the best example of an economic oligopsony ever known. I mean, this is a perfect sector to get some economists involved to explore this and literally, I mean, you could write a textbook on oligopsony just based off of our industry alone. And oligopsony, just very simply, when the seller of the product, or when the buyer of the product sets the sales price, that control is really what we're talking about. And it's having that PSAO contract tied to the wholesaler contract just strengthens that hidden control over pricing. And how, I guess my question would be, how are you harmed by pulling those two apart if, when you look at when they're together, the sales price is still not robust enough to cover your costs?
Right.
We would not have such a public outcry of, you're putting my pharmacy out of business. You're controlling competition. You are mandating and directing patients instead of allowing free market choice. And in that process, the wholesaler that I use is selling drugs to the same entity that's stealing my patients. And so is there, in my eyes, is there some other deal going on that we need to be really examining to find out if that contractual relationship is appropriate?
So are there other independent, so really in my mind, I see this as a kind of an independent PSAO, right?
Absolutely.
And so Absolutely. Are there other independent PSAOs?
There are.
Okay.
They're smaller and more regionally focused. I believe Pharmacy First is an independent PSAO.
Okay.
Epic used to be, but they do have a buy-side control that I believe now is firmly in that Health Mart Atlas McKesson relationship. So I think that relationship is going to change. But AlignRx, we are the largest independent PSAO and believe very strongly in that freedom of choice. And the programs, products, services that we are bringing to the market are done so with that freedom of choice in mind. The contracts I have with my pharmacies, have a short termination clause in them. So I have to literally do something to earn their business every day.
Right.
And that to me is accountability, and I welcome that. Because I absolutely can assure you that the programs and services that we put out there, the way we treat our pharmacy clients, we will always put them first. We believe very strongly in that. The second thing that differentiates AlignRx in this market is the fact that we are a public benefit LLC. And that truly means we have to put our money where our mouth is, and the decisions that we make to run this organization have to be done so with the benefit of the community pharmacist first and foremost. I believe very strongly in that. And so those really are the two key differentiators for Align.
It shows that this is your passion, and independent pharmacy is your passion. It shows.
Yes.
What
yes.
Any innovations coming? I guess right now you're starting to negotiate next year's contracts with the PBMs, right?
Yeah.
Is this too early? Are we in the middle of it? What's going on?
That was a little teaser grin. That's it. Yes.
Well, what I can tell you is that most PBM agreements are negotiated for future years.
Okay.
So
Multi-year.
the contracts that we were assigned in and now have responsibility for were already set for 2022.
Okay.
So I've got in Medicare Part D, all of that contracting actually occurs in the spring each year. So those contracts are, for the most part, final and set for 2022, which, good and bad, we're not going to have an immediate impact to reimbursement or to contracting strategy. But I actually see that as more of a benefit, because that gives me time to analyze the market, analyze our footprint, and really find ways to create contracting networks that are custom built to the pharmacy owner. We still have in the independent sector a wide plethora of business need. You have some pharmacy owners that are in highly competitive areas that need access more than anything else. The problem is that when you have to have access, that forces you to have to sign contract rates that are underwater, just so that you continue to get those patients coming in your door. There are other pharmacies, though, who are maybe not quite in such a competitive market, or who have decided that even though it is competitive, I still want to maintain a certain level of reimbursement so that my pharmacy thrives, not just survives, or I'm continually worried about it going out of business. And so we're seeing a change in mindset. I don't believe in signing all contracts, never have.
Right.
I also don't believe that rates are the only thing you look at when you're negotiating a contract. And so I want to take time to actually review the rights, responsibilities, obligations, the language in each of these contracts, the provider manuals that are hidden contracts with these relationships, and try to figure out, okay, what should community pharmacy look like? What should their rights and responsibilities look like? What should they be fairly compensated for? And I don't believe that allowing PBMs to continue to dictate that they're going to force more and more clinical service for no additional revenue is the proper thing to do.
Yeah.
I think we're at a critical crossroads. We need to make sure that we are making smart business choices for community pharmacy. Mm-hmm. And again, when you're talking about managing and administering network level programs, the decisions you make are probably going to be great for 80% of the pharmacies in your network, and you're still going to have outliers,
right?
That you need to figure out how to accommodate. And so, I think that we accomplish that a little different than the way the current market is handling that.
So Steve Lawrence, who is one of our board members, when he was over sales for Cardinal, was a big proponent of less PSAOs, trying to merge. He was doing a lot of background efforts of trying to merge PSAOs together to get less PSAOs. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think we need to merge some more? You guys merged two of them. Do you think there needs to be more mergers in PSAOs?
I believe that we need to streamline PSAO service, yes. As with anything, competition drives improved service delivery and price. And so what I want to do is make sure that the PSAO that we are building through AlignRx is the right choice and attractive to community pharmacies from across the country. Do I think that companies need to merge? I think naturally some of the smaller ones are going to need a little bit stronger partners to work with. So yeah, I still think that some of that will occur. The challenge is the three biggest wholesalers or the three biggest PSAOs are wholesaler owned.
Right.
How are you going to effectively merge that kind of entity? And that's a big challenge. And you have to do it in a way, again, because I believe very strongly that PSAOs should be independent from wholesaler decisions. It's got to be buy-side focus needs to be completely separate from sell-side focus. How do you do that when the three wholesalers would have to literally give up control over some of the contracting decisions made?
Right.
If they can, perfect. Let's create now, is a super PSAO the right way to go? I don't know. Part of my business training, business background says, no matter what industry you're in, having a monopoly is never a good thing. You've always got to have competition to drive accountability and to drive performance.
Well, you're the biggest in 12 states, right?
We are. 8.
So what does that mean? Has it helped you with negotiations in the states you're biggest? I assume Oklahoma is one of the ones you're biggest. You'll see when you start.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because is a lot of that regional, or is a lot of it nationwide? Is it a lot of nationwide contracts, a lot of regional contracts?
And I think that's the key. I believe that regional strength is what moves the needle faster. I don't believe that you're going to find a national solution that gives you as great an impact to reimbursement quickly. I want to make sure that, again, when I'm talking about regional impact, I'm talking about not just relationships with PBMs, but looking past that, looking into the employer sector, looking into the health plan sector. And my 14-year background with health plans, I think helps that conversation because I understand the concerns and constraints that health plans have. And I think, that gives me a unique ability to find the right answer to bring the two worlds together. You don't always have to fight providers. Mm-hmm. Health plans need providers to deliver the service, and it doesn't always have to be a fight.
Right.
We can find a way to work together collaboratively, reimburse providers fairly, and deliver what ultimately should be the number one goal for everybody involved, and that is, how do we improve patient outcomes?
So, of the 8 states that you're kind of dominating in, is there any desire to expand?
We're in all 50 states.
Okay.
But 8 of the 8 states were the largest PSAO right out of the gate, and then an additional 12 were the second largest. So we're number 1, number 2 in 20 of the 50 states, but we are nationwide. We do have pharmacy clients all across the country. I am looking, like I said, looking for the right contracting strategies to support all of our clients, regardless of where they're located. But I want to do it in a way that makes sense to what they are facing in their own communities. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of hear you saying that, you're thinking about your growth on a statewide basis to where you can provide the most benefit. But what do you see? 4,500 now? What's a good size? What do you think? If you go in your mind, hey, if we reach this, I think I can achieve my dreams for our members. What is this?
Well, and I don't know how to say this without you probably ended up having to edit this out, but
there's the
overall size doesn't matter. It does not matter. What you need truly is regional and focused support and strength.
Okay.
And if we can do that, if we can replicate that in communities all across the country, then naturally we're going to grow on a national presence level. But think about it. Most employers who are purchasing healthcare and buying services from a PBM either do it directly because they're large enough, or through a health plan that they have outsourced to. Mm-hmm. So health plans like the national network approach just because they can, check a box on a marketing slick that says we have nationwide coverage for prescription care. But what they really prefer is how to move the dial for the most of their population. And when you look at health plan enrollments, those health plan enrollments are very regionalized as well. And so you need strength where the majority of their patients reside, so
Right.
that you can do things like patient outcomes programs and performance improvement and, meds to beds. How do you deal with just the discharge of patients back into the community? You need your pharmacist on board to make sure that they're looking at those discharge orders and making sure they're doing reconciliation of medication, because prescriptions change with every hospitalization. And how do you do that with a national network? You can't get everybody involved in that. You've got to have very specific local or regional providers that have the skill sets to do that.
Have you thought about direct to employer?
Absolutely. In fact, when when I was back in my Mays drugstore days, that's really how this got started, right? Mays drugstores did contracts with community pharmacy to then turn around and offer a provider network to community care HMO.
Mm-hmm.
And for years, it was an independent-led pharmacy network in Oklahoma. The HMO was in Oklahoma. All of the patients were in Oklahoma. We used a wrap network for the travelers or for the college kids, but all of the membership was in Oklahoma. And so we didn't have contracts early on with CVS and Walgreens. It was truly an independent network, and it worked beautifully for several years without the chains involved. And so I know I've been part of pharmacy network financing under a capitation program that worked, and it worked very well. And so I think there are ways to replicate, to get, take some of the old tools, refresh them, bring in some new thoughts about being a little bit more creative in the financing side, and trying to take the same, because health plans will always tell you there's one pie of money. How we divvy up that money is where it's important, right? Because they have premiums and all the underwriting things that they go through to create that pie of premium.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you take that pharmacy wedge out of this pie and, redistribute that between product and clinical? You may need to get a little, they may need to understand that the pharmacy wedge of the pie needs to grow a little, because we're going to do things to, lower rehospitalizations, lower your emergency room costs. So maybe you need to take a little bit more, make the pharmacy pie wedge bigger, but don't spend it all on dispensing.
Right.
We've got to get more creative
spend
in
some
how
directly
we
on
actually
clinical.
finance that. Correct.
And do y'all have some programs working toward that? Trying to get the
We
PBMs
do.
to spend, or really, I guess that's the payer, not the PBM.
That's correct. It's no secret. I believe that, PBMs are middlemen to this that have brought, I don't think they've brought as much value as they have price or cost to this equation. And so, again, I think it's important to find how providers who are actually delivering the service are compensated fairly for it and are held to performance goals and performance metrics to show that, when you're engaging your community pharmacist in this process and you build that triangle of healthcare between the physician, the patient, and the pharmacist, that's where you start making a difference in cost. You take your patients who are on, 10 plus medications. You have pharmaceutical consulting that goes on a regular basis to make sure that patients are taking that therapy correctly. Or perhaps you've got many physicians that are involved in the prescribing equation for that one patient that aren't communicating well. That pharmacist can be that communication bridge.
Yep.
But they can't do it if they're relying on the margins that come from traditional dispensing.
Right. You got to get paid for that clinical.
Got to be clinical revenue for that service. And quite honestly, they are the unique provider that has had the proper clinical training to really be able to evaluate medication therapy and help physicians make better choices with the drugs that are being prescribed. Doctors should be diagnosing, pharmacists should be choosing the products to dispense.
Absolutely.
What are y'all working with CPSN? You doing anything in coordination with them?
We are. In fact, CPSN, AlignRx has the Rx Select CPSN network here in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And we are one of the largest networks participating in that CPSN program. I believe very strongly in what that program is
Nice.
doing. And I will do everything I can to make sure that stays successful and grows.
Yeah, because I think 3,500 there needs to be bigger.
Yeah, we're huge CPSN advocates.
Well,
Yes.
if pharmacy, independent pharmacy, clinical pharmacy, if clinical pharmacy succeeds, right, CPSN will have had a role in it.
Yep.
And
Oh, yes.
Period.
And it's not if, it's when.
Yeah, it's
And it's CPSN didn't have a role. They were a catalyst and should be recognized for that. Absolutely.
Will you do anything to try to encourage more of your members to be part of CPSN? I mean, you have 4,500, they have 3,500. Imagine the crossover is about 1,000 or so.
Well, that's the challenge, and that's something that I need to sit down and talk through with the leaders of CPSN to make sure they understand. I now have a unique opportunity to bring to them. CPSN, the strength of that is that they are so very focused on local network control.
Yep.
So CPSN Iowa, CPSN, they're all state-based.
Right.
ARC Select CPSN is the only PSAO-driven CPSN network. We are unique among all of the other partners that we work with. And so I want to make sure that I'm respecting that local network line, right?
Gotcha.
I don't want to do anything that impacts the wonderful work in Missouri and Iowa and there are some states that are really knocking it out of the park. Oklahoma was one of the 4 or 5 states that were selected to be part of the COVID vaccine rollout earlier in the year. And we did some really cool things with that. I was part of a group of folks that we pulled together to actually run a vaccine clinic through the corporate offices here at PPOK.
Interesting.
And we vaccinated 3,500 people in this community coming through this program. And so it was very rewarding to let PSAO employees be involved in this clinic because they actually got to experience firsthand the joy of patient care. And these were elderly people coming in and at risk, infirm. If you remember that very first wave.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot
patients.
of new people in independent pharmacy that we've never seen there before.
Yeah, and it's spectacular and it's rewarding. And I know my staff would come to me and they actually thanked me. They're like, thank you so much for letting us participate in this. They had people crying tears of joy. Thank you so much for helping us get vaccinated. And it was a very moving and rewarding experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the George, lives in, has a house up in Whitefish, and I guess his son was there, and he was like, son, we're going to go get vaccinated. He was like, Dad, I don't know. He's like, son, we're going to go get vaccinated. And so he started off with a Walgreens because I think his son's from Dallas or maybe Tennessee is where he actually lives. He was up there staying with him. Maybe he was in Tennessee. And he knew that was hoping his second shot he'd get somewhere else like that. But they went into the local Walgreens. They're like, no, we're not going to have any till next week. And we don't have any appointment till next week and all this stuff. And they walked down the street in the Independent and they were like, oh, yeah, no problem. Roll your sleeve up. Let's get this
That's
done.
right.
Yeah.
So, very, very interesting.
And multiple success stories like that. I have my own with my grandmother. She just, walk into a chain and they're like, well, you have to go online and register and fill out a paperwork. But however, because it's a really tiny town, the pharmacist actually stopped her because he knew her. And he's like, no, you're not leaving. I'm giving you a shot right now. So it's those success stories that are like, yes, we need more pharmacists out there like that. We need more pharmacies out there that's really willing to put aside the paperwork and really focus on the patient.
Yep.
Correct.
So you
That's
said
absolutely correct.
you're at PPOK headquarters. Now, does PPOK still have an interest in AlignRx?
They do.
Okay.
They are They are 50% owner in AlignRx, and Arate is 50% owner in AlignRx.
Ooh, the 50-50.
But neither, yeah. But and that's why I laugh. I'm like, okay, and they unanimously chose me to lead this organization. Well, let's see how this is going to work. Because
surely there's some super voter on one side or the other, because 50-50 doesn't always work out very well.
We have the appropriate level of board guiding principles, guiding documents, and operating
Keep
agreements.
That
So
going. Yeah.
yes.
So again, PPOK is the half, and Arite is half owner. Is that?
Arte's half owner. Yes.
I'm never going to say that right, I guess.
That's okay.
I need a
That's
phonetic
okay.
spelling, or I need a little recording. Just to say, just play a recording.
Actually, now all you have to do is remember AlignRx, and that's a whole lot easier.
That's right. It is certainly easier to say. I don't know where the other one came from. So do they do anything else besides own half of this? I guess that's kind of the merger, because PPOK has other stuff they do, right?
Absolutely. PPOK is in other lines of business and will continue to focus on community pharmacy solutions that are non-PSAO related. Really, the PSAO is in a beautiful position to really develop programs and services to support community pharmacy. PPOK will continue. They've got a PBM called MaxCare that is absolutely transparent model PBM. Believe strongly in that. And they have RxLink, a data aggregator switch provider, to make sure that pharmacies retain control over their data, which is critical. And then Arate, they actually don't have a different line of business, and will be shutting down PSA operations when as soon as this consolidation of the actual processes and things is complete.
Nice. So what about your husband? Is he as passionate about pharmacy as you are?
I married a gentleman that is a cross between Paul Bunyan and Grizzly Adams.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
And
That
so
sounds cool.
He's truly a throwback to I wish all men would be more like him. Fair, honest, trustworthy, protector, but he's a good old country boy, and so he only tolerates a portion of what I do, what I say, what I talk about. He knows, he loves the fact that I am who I am, and that I'm a fighter for the underdog. I've always been that way. My mom,
Nice.
when I was a kid, would always tell me, every little lost puppy follows you home, Melanie, and you have to fix it. And I'm like, yes, I do. But he's a great man because he lets me be me and do what I need to do. And it takes a lot of time and effort and hours. And he has never once complained. And we have been married. It'll be 27 years in March that we've been married.
Wow!
So,
Congratulations.
Children?
Yeah. He was actually my second marriage, and so he had 2 children with his first wife. I had 2 children with my first husband, and I guess the Lord knew what he was doing, but we didn't have any of our own.
Well, that's
They're
nice.
all grown. Yeah, grown.
Any of them in the pharmacy industry, or?
No. They all, thankfully did what their passions,
Right.
Okay.
where it drove them to. So yeah.
Nice. It's always nice to have an extended family. I mean, blood isn't everything. I've got people in my life that are not blood, and they're very valuable to me. So.
Yes. Well, and my relationships, like my best friend I have had for literally 41 years now. And so I'm just one of those people that if I gel with you that way, we may not talk every day. It may be 2 years between times we talk, but, if you need something, you can call me no matter what time, day, whatever's going on. If I have the power to help you, I absolutely will. So, I love people.
So did your kids stay in Oklahoma? Are they nearby?
My oldest daughter is in Philadelphia.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
My youngest daughter
Ring
is
that
still in
Liberty
the
bell.
Tulsa area.
She went Liberty.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I have to ask because it's on my notes and I'm curious now.
You checking off a list?
I'm
Checking a
curious
list?
because I looked and I couldn't find it. So apparently last year on Facebook, you posted a photo and the teaser was $500 prize to guess what my husband and I are working on. Did anybody guess it?
Yes.
So what was it?
My husband is a little bit older in age than I am, and so he's been retired since 2011. And so one of our dreams has always been, when we get to a point where we decide it's time to find the right home for us to retire in together, we want to do that at the lake.
Okay.
Again, he's got to hunt, he's got to fish, he's got to be outside, no matter what season of the year it is. He's an outdoors guy, and I love that about him.
Mm-hmm.
And so my best friend talked me into buying the lot next to her at the lake. She's already built a home down there, and she's living there full time. And so that's what our little project was, is that we decided to build a little retirement home down there on the lake, so that we could,
So are y'all designing it? Have you built it? Are you living in it?
No. I'm still living here in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
We still have our home here. We're in the process of building it now.
Okay.
And it's just, little by little, it'll get there. So.
Nice. It's fun. Hopefully y'all didn't get caught up in the whole expensive lumber fiasco.
Again, thankful that I have friends and family in the construction business. And so they were yelling, they were feeding me information well ahead of time, saying, you need to buy this now. The price is about to, double. And so I was able to kind of navigate some of that and prepay for some things that kept my costs from doubling. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very thankful.
No, it's crazy what things went up to. I'm
Yeah.
glad I wasn't trying to build a house or move.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, especially just moving, because everybody's moving from California and New York, and they're coming south, or they're going to Billings. And I think Florida, I also heard, got a kind of jumped in population.
Yeah, I don't know. We just got back from Billings, and there was definitely some people from there. Matter of fact, one of the places we ate at, the lady and her husband had moved from New York. So they had been in the hospitality deal in New York, and when this happened, they moved to Billings, Montana. Mm-hmm. They have 2 kids. They're young. One of them is in outdoor preschool. So in Montana, they have outdoor preschool. So the only inside they have is a yurt. So I guess you can get out of the weather for a moment, but you count trees, you count bugs, you got it's outside. We were saying you should rename it free range preschool, right? I have a free range child. I think, don't you have a? I
have my front doormat. When you come on my front porch, it says caution, free range children. Yeah, but what an interesting idea. I remember my daughter going into preschool was like, Dad, it's hard. I have to stand still. I think she'd have been fine. We have to be quiet. She'd have been fine with outdoor.
She'd have been fine running around counting trees and
looking at bugs and
learning about the way I guess they read outside. I know, though, I told my wife that, and she's like, it gets cold in Montana, but I guess they just bundle up. I've stayed outside all day skiing, so.
Imagine that, training children how to survive in the elements.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
That's
to me,
practically unheard of.
Yeah, no, it's super, super interesting.
Yeah.
I was like, I should start a franchise.
Priceless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great idea.
If my husband and I would have had a child, that would have been a perfect place for.
That'd have been perfect. Because you have a free range husband, it sounds like.
I do. Very much so. I do.
Very, very accurate. A perfect label.
Yes.
Well, Melanie, we're running out of time. Just wanted to end it saying thank you for
so much.
Spending some time with us. Yeah, learned some cool stuff.
Really great hour.
Let us know if we can help you. So super glad you guys are doing what you're doing. I think we needed a bigger PSAO, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for technology. Be very curious to find out. One of the follow-ups out to see is how many of our customers, how many Pioneer systems that you actually have out there. We have probably about 20,
I've got so many notes to follow up with her after this.
Of the market, but I'd be interested to see how that skews one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that we have a significant number of shared clients. Yes, we do.
Well, let's figure out a way to help them. So they need all the help they can
I'm
get.
all for that.
Well, thank you, and
Thank you
look
so
forward to
much,
seeing you again.
Melanie.
Take care.
All right.
Enjoy your
Bye.
week.
Thank you for watching the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode,
Please like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts to help us reach more pharmacy professionals like you.